Now welcome everybody to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going through the AQA GCSE Maths Higher paper of June 2019, paper 3, which was a calculator paper. So let's get started on this June 2019 Higher GCSE paper 3. So looking at question 1, it says work out what £1.50 is as a fraction of 60 pence. So for this what we need to do is do £1.50 as a fraction of 60 pence, so 0.6. And if I type that into my calculator, just to simplify it, so 1.5 divided by 0.6 gives me a fraction of 5 over 2, which is our last option. Question 2, it says for a biased die, the probability of getting a 6 is 3/5. Circle the probability of 2 6s when the dice is rolled twice. Now for this, we want 1 6 and another 6, so we multiply the two probabilities together, giving us 9 over 25, which is our third option. For question 3, it says circle the lowest common multiple of 5, 15 and 25. So we want the lowest number that appears in both the 5 times table and the 15 times table and the 25 times table. Now for this, because it's only worth 1 mark and it's multiple choice, you don't have to show any working out, but basically the correct answer you should have is going to be 75. Going on to question 4, it says circle the two roots of x minus 5 multiplied by x plus 3 equals 0. So for this, what we need to do is make each of these brackets equal to 0. So x minus 5 equals 0. So x equals 5. So that's that option there. And x plus 3 equals 0. Well, x is going to equal minus 3. So there is my second option. For question 5, it says on the grid, draw an enlargement of the triangle of scale factor of a half. So looking at this particular triangle that we've got, the original one, it's got dimensions of a base of 4 and a height of 6. So if I'm doing it by a scale factor of a half, I need to basically halve those two distances. So here I'm going to have a base of 2 and a height of 3. And then all I then need to do is with a ruler, which is probably going to take me longer than to actually do this question, and particularly trying to do it as neatly as possible. So, to be fair, I'm just going to do freehand because it's just going to be, and then like so. Then with regards to question 6, it says to the nearest pound John has £9 and to the nearest 50 pence Ellie has £6.50. Work out the maximum total amount of money. So here, in terms of the nearest pound, what I need to do is work with the pound, divide that by 2, so that equals 50 pence. So what I need to do is add and subtract 0.50. And then with Ellie to the nearest 50 pence, I'm going to do 50 pence divided by 2, which is 25 pence. What I need to do is add and subtract 0.25. So in terms of John's upper and lower bounds, that's going to be £8.50 to £9.50. Now the reason is because you're dealing with money, £9.50 would be rounded up to £10 to nearest 50 pence. So what I need to do is write this as £9.49, and the same with Ellie, is her minimum amount is going to be £6.25. But typically I would have given £6.75 as an upper limit, but again, because £6.75 would be rounded up to £7 to nearest 50 pence, this amount here is going to be £6.74. So to work out the maximum possible number, what I need to do is add these two numbers together. So if I just simply add those two numbers up, so again, reach for the calculator, £9.49 plus £6.74, it will give me an answer of £16.23. Moving on to question 7, it says that two solids J and K have the same density. Complete the table, include units in your answers. So again, we need to make sure that we include the units for this. Now in terms of the formula for density, so density is equal to mass over volume. Now if you want to go into the whole triangle mode, which is not really sort of frowned upon now, depending on if your teacher has showed you this, but this is the formula that we generally need to use. So the first thing we need to do is work out the density for J. Now how do I do that? Well, that's going to be, so the density for J is going to be equal to 48 divided by 8, which gives me 6, and the units are going to be grams per centimetre cubed. Now you can write those units as grams centimetres to the minus 3, which basically means the same, but if you wrote grams with a slash centimetre cubed, then that would be absolutely fine. Now it also says that they have the same density, so this is also going to be 6 grams per centimetre cubed. So then what I need to do is then work out the volume. Well, if I rearrange the formula, I get that V equals M divided by D. So the mass is 78 divided by 6. And again, if I just type that into my calculator, 78 divided by 6 gives me an answer of 13. So that's going to be 13 centimetre cubed. For question 8, it says rearrange y equals 3x minus 2 to make x the subject. So again, we start with y equals 3x minus 2. So first things first, I take the 2 over, so I get y plus 2 equals 3x. I then take the 3 over, which then gives me y plus 2 all divided by 3 equals x, which is option number 2. Then looking at question 9, it says towns P, Q, R are connected by roads PQ, PR and QR. Now PR is 10 kilometers longer than PQ, QR is twice as long as PR, and the total length of the 3 roads is 170 kilometers. And the question is asking me to work out the length of PQ. Now for this, I'm just going to zoom out just so that we've got a bit more space to work with, and as predicted, that's reasonable. So let's just go back to question 9. So there we go. So looking at this, if I just connect these 3 points up, now it doesn't necessarily need to be straight lines. Now if we say that PQ is x, then P to R is 10 kilometers longer, so that's going to be x plus 10. It also says that QR is twice as long as the road PR, so if we just put brackets around that, so this length here is going to be 2 lots of x plus 10. Now it then says that if I add up all the roads, so PR plus RQ or QR plus PQ, that's all going to add up to 170. So if I join these sort of expressions up, so here I've got PR, which is x plus 10, plus 2 lots of x plus 10, plus x, that all adds up to 170. So simplifying the left hand side, I get x plus 10 plus 2x plus 20 plus x equals 170. And then collecting all the like terms, I get 4x plus 30 equals 170. Take the 30 over to the other side, so I get 4x equals 140, and then x equals 140 divided by 4, which equals, that's going to be 35 if I'm not mistaken, but let's just double check. 140 divided by 4 equals 35. Now just to go back to the question, it's asking me to work out the length of PQ, and PQ is just x, so PQ equals 35 kilometers. And if I just go down to where it is, I'll just write down 35 there. Looking at question 10, it says Mia wants to borrow £6,000 and repay it with interest after 2 years. She sees 2 offers for the loan. So we've got offer 1, which is compound interest, which kind of tells me what topic this question relates to, giving you a compound interest of 3%. And offer 2 is compound interest. The first year is 1% and the second year is 5%. And Mia is saying that I will pay back the same amount with both offers, and we need to check whether she is correct. So let's have a look if she is. So in terms of offer 1, what we need to do is, well, we're looking at compound interest 3% over 2 years. So the original amount is 6,000 multiplied by, and it's going to be 100% plus 3%, which is 103%, and that as a decimal is 1.03, and that's over 2 years. Again, if I reach for the calculator and enter that in, so I've got 6,000 multiplied by 1.03 to the power of 2, press equals, and it gives me an amount of 6365 and 40 pence. So 6365 and 40 pence. Now with offer 2, it's going to be starting with £6,000. In the first year, I spend I get charged 1%, so it's 0.01 to the power of 1. In the second year, I'm then going to have a 5% charge. So all I've got to do is then type this amount in. So typing all of this in, I get 6,000 multiplied by 1.01 multiplied by 1.05, press equals, and it comes up as 6363. So as you can see, that is she correct? No, Mia is incorrect, as the 2 repayable amounts are different. So looking at question 11, it says that here are two sets of numbers A and B, and the question is saying that, or gives the information that mean of set A is in the ratio of mean to set B of 3 to 8, and the question is asking us to work out the value of x. Now this question I think is pretty stingy. It's the fact it's only worth 4 marks. I would compare it to the amount of working that we're going to need to do, but there we go, let's just go on with it. So the first thing we need to do is work out the mean of A. Now how do we do that? Well, we just simply add the numbers up and divide by 4. Again, reach for the calculator, and which we'll get here. So again, adding the numbers in, so 200 plus 160 plus 104 plus 100. Remember to press equals, then divide that by 4, and we get a mean of 141. Now we then know that the next thing we then need to do is work out the mean of B. Well, we know that 141 equals 3 parts, so then 8 parts is going to be where we divide by 3 and multiply by 8. So if I do 141 divided by 3 multiplied by 8 gives me an answer of 376. So 376 is the mean of B. So if I then add all of those numbers up in B, so I've got 270 plus 400 plus 483 plus 300 plus x, all divided by 5, that should come up to 376. So what I need to do is now rearrange and simplify each of these expressions. So first of all, let's add up what those 4 numbers add up to. So I've got 270 plus 400 plus 483 plus 300 equals 1453. So 1453 plus x equals, and if I take the 5 over to the other side, I'm going to get 376 multiplied by 5, and that gives me an answer of 1880. So now all I need to then do is x equals 1880 minus 1453, and type it into the calculator. 1880 subtracted by 1453, that gives me an x value of 427. So looking at question 12, it says the straight line has a gradient of 4 and passes through the point 523, and the question is asking us to work out the equation of the line in the form of y equals mx plus c. So let's just highlight the information that we know. So we know that the gradient is 4, so that means that m equals 4. And in terms of this coordinate, I know that x equals 5 and y equals 23. So now if I just go straight into substituting this in, because I need to work out what c is, then what I've got is I've got 23 equals 4 times 5 plus c. So then here I've got 23 equals 20 plus c, so therefore c equals 3. Now from these two bits of information, all I can then need to do is just substitute into y equals mx plus c, so I get the formula of y equals 4x plus 3. Now again, if you've been taught the formula of y minus y1 equals mx minus x1, again this would be absolutely fine to use. So here m equals 4, x equals 5, and y1 equals 23. And again, just substituting numbers in, we get this scenario, then we expand the brackets out, in which we get this, take the 23 over to the other side, and which we get the same answer. Moving on to question 13a, which regards to vectors. So here it says vector A and vector B are drawn in the grid. Write down B in terms of A. So as you could see in terms of A, that's 1A going in this direction, and this is another A. Now we want to go in the opposite direction, so that there's going to be that B is going to be equal to minus 2A. For question 13b, it says vector c and d are drawn on the grid, and on the grid we want to draw a vector representation of c minus d. Now for c, now I'm going to make sure that you need to make sure, now this may require a bit of error, so I would try use a blank space below. So starting with c, c looks like it's going in this direction, and then minus d is going to the left. So positive d is going towards the right, so negative d means it's going to the left. So my shape is going to look something that looks like this. So what I'm going to do is on the grid, I'm going to start at this point here, and I mark where c is, so that's going up to left 1. So that's c, and again what I'm trying to do is draw a straight line. And then we then need to count the number of squares, so d is 7 squares, so that's going to be 4 and then another 3. Just again, hopefully you're using a ruler for this, and then d is going in this direction, so that's minus d, that's positive c. And then the vector we actually need to draw is c minus d, and to do that what we then need to do is draw a straight line going from this point to this point, which I'll try and do in a different colour. Let's just make sure that's straight like so, and let's just do that in red. So this vector here represents c minus d, and it's that orange or red line, whichever colour you're seeing, is the answer. For question 14, the question says that for class X the number of boys to the number of girls is 7 to 8, and in class Y the number of boys to girls is in the ratio of 3 to 4. Now for this question it says which of the statements must be true, tick one of the boxes, and again going through all the options, the correct answer is that the class X has a greater proportion of boys than in class Y, so that's going to be our option, our third option here. Moving on to question 15, so this is looking at simplifying expressions. Now again, when we're multiplying fractions, all we've got to do is just join the numerators together, join the denominators together. So here I've got a cubed, let's just slip, let's just get rid of that. So here I've got a cubed b squared c all over c d ab to the power of 5. Now the numbers are in a different order, but again it shouldn't really make a difference. So let's look at the a's first. So you can only cancel letters if they both appear on the top of the bottom, and then obviously you want to take the biggest number away. So here I've got 3 a's at the top, but I've only got a single a at the bottom, so if I take an a from the bottom, I'm only going to be left with 2 at the top. B's, I've got 2 at the top and 5 at the bottom, so if I take 2 from both sides, I'm going to end up with 3 at the bottom. The C's cancel because I've just a single C, so then D's don't cancel because I've got none on the top. So what have I got left? Well, I've got a mess. So let's just say I've got a squared, and that's it, over db to the power of 3. I don't know why I've got a little rectangle there. Let's just get space and drop that. So I've got b cubed and d. Or if you wrote it as a squared db cubed, that's absolutely fine. It's just they prefer to write your multiplication of letters in alphabetical order. So moving on to question 16, it says here are 2 sectors from 2 different circles, and the question is asking us which sector has the biggest area. Now for sector area, so area of a sector, the formula is theta divided by 360 multiplied by pi r squared. So what I need to do is substitute these. So here I've got that theta equals 2x and r equals r, and in sector A I've got that theta equals x and r equals 1.5r. And again, so looking at this one, if we look at sector A and substitute the numbers in, so I've got here that a equals, and it's going to be x over 360 multiplied by pi times, and it's going to be, now I'm going to use fractions, which doesn't really make a difference, so 3r squared, and from this, actually let me just correct that because that should be the r inside the bracket, r squared. And what I then want to do is now simplify this. So here I've got x over 360 multiplied by pi multiplied by 9 over 4 r squared. So joining all of this together, what do I get? Well, I get 9 pi and then x r squared all over 160. So that's my area for A. Now what I need to do is exactly the same but for sector B. So sector B is going to be A equals, and it's going to be 2x over 360 multiplied by pi multiplied by r squared. So now for this, what we then need to do is simplify this. So what we've got is we've got 2x r squared pi over 360. Just noticed that the pi shouldn't be there, and where that pi has come from, so that's what we've got. So now what I'm going to do is just compare the two elements. Now for this, if in terms of comparison, and I've got A and B, so A is, if I simplify that, 9 goes into 360 by 40, so it's going to be pi x r squared over, and it's going to be, just double check that, so I've got 9 over 360 is the same as 1 over 40, so that was correct. And I've got pi x r squared over, and it's going to be 180. Now as you can see that in section A I'm dividing by a smaller denominator, whereas in B I'm dividing by a much bigger gradient. So here sector A is going to have a bigger area, and again just working that out, I could type in. Now if I wanted to use the numbers, which I'm going to find very difficult, I could work it out, but what I could do is, if I wanted to show this, is I could do, well unfortunately because I don't know what xr is, well I can do pi over 40. So pi over 40, let's do that on my calculator, so pi divided by 40 equals 0.0785, so 0.00785, and that's going to be pi r squared. I'm just double check, make sure I've got the correct zeros, which I haven't, so let me just get rid of one of those zeros. So I've got 0 point that, and then I work out pi over 180, so pi divided by 80 equals, going to give me 0.00174, 175 I should say, 0.0175, and as you can see that this area is is bigger than this one, so sector A has a bigger area. Moving on to question 17, it says that a factory makes kettles. 4 samples of kettles are tested for faults. Each sample has a size of 200. Here is a relative frequency of the faulty kettles in each of the samples. The question is asking us to work out the range of the number of faulty kettles in the 4 samples. So for this, what we need to do is work out how many faulty kettles there are in each one. So how do we do that? We multiply the sample size, which is 200, by the relative frequency. So for P, it's going to be 200 times 0.03. For Q, it's going to be 200 times 0.03. For R, it's going to be 200 times 0.015. And finally, for S, it's going to be 200 times 0.01, and hopefully all of these will give me answers which I'll do on my calculator. So working those calculations out, let's just quickly do that. So here we've got 200 times 0.03 equals 6 there, and for Q I've got 200 times 0.035, which gives me 7. Stick a 5 there because I'm there. And then for R, we've got 200 times 0.015, and we get 3. And then finally for the last one, we've got 200 times 0.01, which gives me an answer of 2. So here what it's doing is asking me for the range of values. So which is the smallest? 2. So 2 is the smallest. Which is the biggest? 7. So in the range is going to be 7 take away 2, giving me an answer of 5. Now looking at question 18a, it says write x and then multiplied by 3x minus 9 equals 4 in the form of a quadratic equation. So what we need to do here is just simply expand the bracket and make it equal to 0. Here I've got 3x squared minus 9x equals 4, and then take the 4 over to the other side, in which then we get 3x squared minus 9x minus 4 equals 0. Then for question 18b, it says solve this equation 2 decimal places. So I can see that the top bit is going to be equal to my quadratic in A. So what I want to solve is 3x squared minus 9x minus 4 equals 0. Now because the question is asking me to give my answers to 2 decimal places, that's going to be a massive clue that this is not going to factorize. So what I need to do is I need to use the quadratic formula. Now the quadratic formula is minus b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a, where you've got the coefficients of ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Now in this particular example, we've got a equals 3, b equals minus 9, and c equals minus 4. Now just got to be careful with the negatives, particularly when you're entering this on your calculator. Now me personally, I would actually write this all out. So I've got minus, and then minus 9, plus minus the square root of minus 9 squared minus 4 times 3 times minus 4, and that is all being divided by 2 times 3. Now simplifying some of this is where possible, just make your life a little bit easier in terms of the calculator. Well, 2 minuses make a plus, so that's 9. Got my plus and minus. Now the square root, or the square of minus 9, well, 2 negatives gives me positive 81. Minus 4 times 3, which is 12, times minus 48 gives me minus 48. And that's all divided by 6. 2 minuses then become a plus. So that is what I want to try and type into my calculator. Now again, if you were to type in what's written in blue, just make sure that you are using brackets, particularly around negative numbers, otherwise you could end up getting the wrong complete answer. So here, I'm going to set up my fraction, I've got 9, and let's go for the minus answer first. So I've got square root of 81 plus 48, all divided by 6, and press equals, and that gives me an answer to 2 decimal places of minus 3.9, so minus 0.39. Then going back to my calculator, not loading, which it has, let's just go with that. And then we've got, could have just used the correct answer, but I'm going to type it again. So I've got 9 plus root 81 plus 48, all divided by 6, and that gives me an answer to 2 decimal places of 3.39. 3.39. And there is my final answer. Moving on to question 19, it says that here we've got a box plot diagram. So for this, what we need to make sure that we're doing is serious information about the times people took to complete a survey. And then we've got the fastest time, slowest time, median, lower quartile, and interquartile range. Now one thing I'm noticing from this is that typically you would not be given this, because that's something you'd have to work out. We're missing the upper quartile, so that's one thing that I am missing. But let's have a look in terms of the criticisms that we should have. Well, looking at this, let's just double check to make sure that everything is okay. So is the slowest time 18 minutes? Well, looking at that, it is, because every little small square, I'm not too keen on the scale that they're using, so every 2 squares, oh, don't know why I'm writing in highlighter, so 2 squares equals 1 minute. So 18 is correct, so that one's fine. Looking at the upper quartile, well, if the lower quartile is 7, then the upper quartile should be 15, which you can see that that is incorrect. So here, that the upper quartile is wrong, and it should be at 15 minutes. And also looking at the median time is 11, and this is 10.5. So the median value plotted wrong, as it's at 10.5, not 11. So something along those lines will get you the 2 marks. Then moving on to question 20. So question 20 says that d is directly proportional to the square root of v when d equals 6, when v equals 20. So the question is asking us to work out the equation connecting d to v. Now for this, what we need to do is recognise and rewrite the first sentence using mathematical notation. So d is directly proportional to the square of v. Then what we then do is replace the proportional symbol with equals k. And then what we then need to do is substitute these numbers in to work out what k is. So d equals 6 equals k times 20 squared. So then k is going to equal 6 divided by 20 squared. So k equals 6 over 400, which simplifies to be 3 over 200, giving me my final formula of d equals 3 over 200, and that's v squared. So here in this block I'm going to write d equals 3 over 200 v squared. Now for question 20b, it's asking me to work out the value of d when v equals 30. So all I need to do is substitute these values into the formula to get my value of d. So d equals 3 over 200 multiplied by 30 squared. So again, reaching for my calculator, I'm going to enter exactly how it's shown. So 3 over 200, and then scroll across, multiplied by 30 squared, gives me an answer of 27 over 2, which is 13.5. So question 21 says Hanif wants to make green paint by mixing blue paint with yellow paint in the ratio blue to yellow as 7:3. He buys blue paint in 50 litre containers, each costing £225, and he buys yellow paint in 20 litre containers, each costing £80. He wants to sell the green paint in 5 litre tins and make a 40% profit in each tin. How much should he sell each tin for? So now there's no indication in terms of this question how much of the green paint he wants to make, so let's just go for the fact that he's just buying what is stated in the question. So the first thing we want to do is find out how much price per litre of a blue costs. So blue per litre, should say the cost of blue per litre is going to be 225 divided by 50, which comes out to a cost of £4.50 per litre. Then if we do the same with yellow, so the cost of yellow per litre is not the best colour to see on white, so yellow better. So yellow per litre is going to be 80 divided by 20, which equals £4 per litre. So that we then need to do is make 7 litres. So here we're going to have 7 parts, so 7 parts is going to equal 7 times £4.50, and 7 parts is going to equal 7 litres. And so if I type that in, I've got 7 times £4.50, and that comes up to a total cost of £31.50. And then if I look at the yellow, which is 3 parts, which is going to be 3 times 4, which is £12, and that's going to equal 10 litres of paint. So that equals 10 litres of green paint. That's going to basically be 2 tins. So 2 tins is going to have a cost value of £43.50, and that's the cost price. So what I then need to do is first of all work out the price of 1 tin. So 1 tin is going to be half of this. So again, just go for the calculator. 43.5 divided by 2 equals £21.75. So what I need to do is I want to make 40% profit of that. So 21.75 multiplied by 1.4. And again, where 1.4 has come from, it's come from 100% plus 40%, because I want to make 41% profit. And again, if I type that into my calculator, 21.75 multiplied by 1.4 gives me a cost of £30.45. So here the total cost is going to be, let's just write down where I've got from, and there is my final answer. Now moving on to our next question, so question 22, it says that here we've got a Venn diagram and it says that the total number of students involved is 29 students. C are students who own a cat and D is students who own a dog. And question 22a says a student chose at random, circle the probability that student owns a cat or a dog but not both. So what we're looking for is we're looking for this number here and that number there, which gives me 13. So it's going to be 13 over the total sample, which is 29. So it's going to be our second option. For question 22b, it says that a student who owns a dog, so we're looking at, if I just delete that and that, so we're looking at this circle here only, because we know that they own a dog, and it says circle the probability that student also owns a cat. So it's going to be 8. So we're looking for 8 over 15, which is, again, our second option. Moving on to our next question, which is going to be sketching a graph of the curve of y equal, we've been given the equation of y equals 2 to the power x, and on the question it's asking us to draw the graph of y equals 3 to the power of x. Now with this, what you tend to find is, now what you could do is, although we're sketching, is do 3 to the power of minus 2, 3 to the power of minus 1, 3 to the power of 0, 3 to the power of 1, 3 to the power of 2, 3 to the power of 3. And if you then compare that to 2 to the power of minus 2, 2 to the power of, I put an equal sign, minus 1, 2 to the power of 0, 2 to the power of 1, 2 to the power of 2, 2 to the power of 3, then this equals 0.25 because it's a quarter. This is a half. That's going to equal 1, that's 2, 4, and 8. So that's where when x equals 0, it's at 1. Now, if we compare it to this, so here I'm going to have 1/9, I'm going to have a third, I'm going to have 1, 3, and then I've got 9 and 27. So it's still going to cross at 0, 1. But in terms of minus, is that below? Yes, it is, because a half is bigger than a half, then a third is smaller than a half. So that's going to be there, and the 9th is smaller than 1/25, so it's actually going to go before. Now 3 to the power 1 is actually bigger than 2 to the power 1, so it's actually going to be above. So what's going to happen is the curve is going to go through 1, but is going to look something looks like this. Now let me just do that again. It's sketchy as. Let's just use a different colour, and you should have something that looks like that. And again, make sure it doesn't cross or look as if it's crossing the y-axis like my blue line. Moving on to question 24, it says the length of a diagonal of a cuboid is 20 centimeters. The diagonal makes an angle of 24 degrees with the base. The area of the base is 150, and the question is asking us to work out the volume of the cuboid. Now to work out the volume, what I need to know what this length here is, I need to know what that length here is, and I need to know what that is there. Now, looking at this, I can see straight away that I've got a right angle triangle. Now the information, although it's not marked on the diagram, tells me that the diagonal is 20 degrees. Now if I was to take that triangle out, then this is what I'm wanting to find, which I'm just going to call h, and I've got 20, and that this angle here is 24. So what I need to do is use trig. So here here's the hypotenuse, this is the opposite, this is theta, so which I've got sine 24 equals x over 20. So x equals 20 multiplied by sine 24. And if I type that into my calculator, which I'm going to do now, I've got 20 times sine 24, press equals, and I get an answer of 8.315. So x equals 8.135, and that's to 3 decimal places. Now, the next thing I've then got to do is work out what the length and the width is. Now the problem is well, to work out the volume, I'm just going to multiply those lengths together, but in the question it tells me that L times W is 150. So if I work out the volume is H times L times W, well these two things here, they've already told me is 150. So technically all I then just need to do is multiply it by 8.135, whatever number that is for the volume. So if I reach for my calculator, I should still already have that number written down in its exact form. So if I then multiply that by 150 equals, I get the correct answer of 1220, And if I want to put some decimal points in there, I can either copy the answer on the calculator if I'm a bit nervous about rounding. I'm going to do it to 1 decimal place. I'm also just going to state that it's to 1 dp as well. Again, what do you need to round it to? Again, it's entirely up to you. As it's a decimal number, I definitely would have a few decimal numbers after the 1220, but always state what you've rounded it to. And if you're ever nervous, then just copy what's written on your calculator. For question 25, it says ABCD is a square, and it gives you the coordinates. And for 25a, it says a single transformation of ABCD is such that B is mapped onto D, D is mapped up to B, and A is C are invariant points. Describe fully the transformation. So for this, basically what's happened is invariant points basically means they haven't moved. So here we're looking at this coordinate here, just simply swapping with that coordinate there. So what's happened? Well, that's going to be a reflection. And whenever you're describing a reflection, you need the line of reflection, which the line of reflection is this line here. The line goes through AC. And what's that line? So reflection on Y equals 1. Then looking at question 25, it says that a different single transformation is on ABCD is such that B is mapped onto D, D is mapped onto B, and the only irrelevant point is 0, 1. Describe fully the transformation. So let's have a look, go back to the diagram, and let's talk about what that then means. So if I just rebut those lines, let's have a look. So it says that, let's just go back to the conditions. So it says the B and D have swapped. So this is now B, this is now D, and the only point that hasn't moved is 0, 1. I'm mistaken. Yes. So basically A has been moved and C has been moved. Now I would say that by looking at it, that it has been rotated to get to that point. So here, whenever I'm talking about a rotation, there's a couple of things I need to add, and especially as it's worth 3 marks. So it's going to be a rotation. The center is 0, 1. And it's at an angle of 180 degrees. Now again, I don't need to write the direction because it's 180 degrees, it doesn't make a difference, but if it was 90 or 270, then I would probably need to write that down, but also this question would be worth 4 marks. So looking at question 26, it says g of x equals 6e minus x and h of x equals x cubed, and the question is asking us to solve GHX of 24. Now the first thing we want to do is find the formula for GH of x. Now how do we do that? Well, we substitute h into g of x. So then that's then going to become 16 minus, and wherever I see an x, I'm going to swap it with this function here, which is just x cubed. Now it tells me that this function here equals 24. So now what I want to do is just solve this. So let me just write it out again. Let's write it over here. So I've got 16x cubed equals 24. So again, if I take the 16 over to the other side, I get minus x squared equals 8. And then I've then just got to get rid of the negative. So I've got x cubed equals minus 8. And then if I then do x equals the cube root of minus 8. Now, although you can't square root a negative number, you can square root can cube root a negative number, and the cube root of negative 8 gives me an answer of minus 2. So moving on to question 7, it says in this question all lengths are in centimetres. A is a point on the circle with centre O, and B is a point of the different circle also with centre O, and A to B is 20. It says the equation of the large circle is y squared x squared plus y squared equals 144, and the radius of the smaller circle to the radius of the large circle is in the ratio of 4 to 5. And the question is asking us to work out the angle of AOB. So let's first of all just mark what we're actually needing to find. So this is what I'm trying to find, this angle here, which is angle AOB, which I'm going to call X. In the question it tells me that A to B is 20, so this length here is 20. And it tells me that the larger circle is got an equation of x squared plus y squared equals 144. Now if you think about equations of a circle, then this value here is r squared, so that means that r equals 12, because I'm just going to square root it. Now it's going to be positive 12, not negative 12, because obviously we're dealing with length. So O to B is going to be 12. Now from this, we then know, looking at the ratios, that 5 represents 12, and what we then need to work out is what the radius of the smaller circle is. Now to work out the radius of the smaller circle, so r of small circle is going to be 12 divided by 5, which is one part, and then I multiply it by 4 because I want to know what 4 parts are. So reaching for the calculator, what do I get? I get 12 divided by 5, press equals, multiplied by 4, gives me an answer of 9.6. Now, if I then take that question out, so let me just get rid of this. And let's just quickly, well, we don't rub out any thingy, so here we've got radius of small circle. It's 9.6, and that's from 12 divided by 5 times 4. So from this, what we then got is we've got our triangle, and here is our angle. We've got this length here as being 9.6, this length here being 12, and this length here being 20. Now to find the angle x, what I need to do is use the cosine rule. Now the code to remember is a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. Now we want to make cos a the subject, so what I need to do is take everything all onto the side. So I've got a squared minus b squared minus c squared, all divided by minus 2bc. Now, and that equals cos a. Now obviously you can have different variations of this. You can have b squared plus c squared minus a squared all over bc, and that'll be absolutely fine. All you're doing is just changing all the negatives to positives, but either of those, these are the two formulas that we then need to use. So from this, and again running out of space, so let me just recognize this. So let's just label this. So this is my capital A, this 20 is my lower a, and we'll use 9.6 as b and 12 as c. So then substituting those numbers in, what do I get? Well, let's just move down a little bit. So here we've got a equals 20, b equals 9.6, and we've got c equals 12. So substituting those numbers in, that cos a equals, and we'll go for the second version. So we've got 9.6 squared plus 12 squared minus 20 squared, all divided by 2 times 9.6 times 12. And if I type that all into my calculator, which I'm going to do now, so here I've got fraction 9.6 squared plus 12 squared minus 20 squared, all divided by 2 times 9.6 times 12, press equals, and I get an answer of 0.071. So here I've got cos a equals minus 0.7 occurring. So then to work out what angle A is, I do the inverse cos of that answer, minus 0. Just make sure I make that out again. Minus 0.71 recurring. And if I kept it on the calculator, all I then need to do is just press in shift cos of the ands equals, and I get 135.3. So then here the answer is going to be 135.3, and that's to 1 decimal place. Now moving on to question 28, it says that Leo runs for 12 seconds. The graph shows his speed, and part A shows that the distance he runs is less than 67.5 meters. Now in terms of distance, so distance on a speed time graph equals the area. So what I need to do is I need to work out the total area of this graph. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to split this up into 4 sections. So I'm going to label this A, this B, this C, and this side here is going to be D, which is a curve, which I'll talk to you in a second what that is. Now in terms of the area of A, well, area of A is a triangle, so that's going to be the base, which is 5, times the height, which is 8, and I'm going to divide that by 2, which gives me an area of 20, and that's going to be in meters. Then the area of B, which is a rectangle, let me just highlight that 20 because that's what we're going to work with later. So the area of B is a rectangle, so it's got a base of 4 and a height of 8, so 8 times 4 is 32, so that's another area they need to work out. Stick in meters there, just make sure we don't forget the units. And the area of C is a triangle with a base of 4, a height of 1, and we divide that by 2, so that's going to give me 2 meters. Now the problem I've got here is our fourth here, is that we've got a slant. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to overestimate. So area D is going to be an overestimate. And the reason why it's going to be an overestimate is because rather than trying to work out the exact area, instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that that is a triangle. And you can see that the area of my triangle that I'm going to be working out is going to be bigger, just slightly bigger, than the actual area under that. So it's going to be an overestimate. So here the overestimate is going to have a base of 3, a height of 9, and I'm going to divide that by 2. So 9 times 3 is 27. 27 divided by 2. Let's just quickly, but that should be 13. Do it anyway. Gives me 13.5. So 13.5. Now I've here overestimated. So here we've got, so the distance ran is going to be equal to 20 plus 32 plus 2 plus 13.5, and let's just add that all up. So I've got 20 plus 32 plus 2 plus 13.5, and it gives me an answer of 67.5. Now here, and that equals 67.5. So he's obviously ran less. So he has ran less as we overestimated section D, or in other words, his last leg. Now for question 28b, it says work out the average acceleration for his first 9 seconds. Well, acceleration is calculated as speed over time. So looking at his average, so his speed after 9 seconds was 9 over 9, so it's just going to be 9 over 9, which is 1, and then we just need to make sure that we've got the units. So the units is going to be in meters per second squared, or you can write it as 1 ms to the minus 2. That's absolutely fine. So to get 1 mark for the 1 and then 1 mark for the unit, so do make sure, particularly as it does state you to write down your units. And that concludes this paper. Now we'll put the grade boundaries in the description below for this paper and with all 3 of these papers, so you can see your overall grade for the June 2019 papers.